Hello and welcome to episode 072 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. It is February 10th, 2024. Kodax is here, that's me, and I'm going to jump right into my latest purchase. Of course I have something. What week do I not have something to talk about? That's kind of scary to think about. But this week I have the Steelbook edition of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now, this Steelbook edition was, interestingly, only available at Walmart. Could not find it in any other retailer, here in the US at least. I believe the Steelbook was available through other methods in Europe and some other territories. So, unfortunately, much to myself and Rick's dismay, so yeah, it's just the Steelbook in a slipcover. There is no regular game case included, so no, paper sleeve for me to pull out and potentially get signed by the developers one day. It would have to be, they'd sign directly on the Steelbook, or I'd find another copy at some point in the future. But I jumped on. Normally, I wouldn't have probably jumped on this because this is a full-priced game at this point in time. But I don't know. I've been reading a lot of reviews about the game, and I'm hearing a lot of interesting stuff, contextually, how the game works, and it's very player reactive, and the devs have seemingly thought of, everything. For every way you could possibly approach the game, the developers have thought of a way that, that the game can react to whatever a player might think to do. And they record, the characters have dialogue for different things. It just sounds like a really unique game. Now, there is a previous game, because this is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, so I would probably play that before I jump into the sequel. I'm that kind of guy. If it's a direct sequel and not kind of a standalone sequel, I gotta play the first game first, then the second game. But yeah, I'm excited about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and the gaming world seems to be really enjoying it. So if you're into a very that's the wrong word, a very RPG heavy game, and it's first person, so I know some people that's kind of a turn off. I kind of like when there's an option to do third or first person, but what are you going to do? You got to take what you can get and just go with whatever the developer's intentions were, go along for the ride, and see where it takes you. Let's jump into what I've been playing. So I finally finished Ghost of Tsushima completely. I think I mentioned that last week, but I didn't get around to talking about it. So I just wanted to kind of dive into my thoughts a little bit. So I guess really the biggest highlight of the game is probably its story. It has a very compelling main story path. There's great characters, from the main character, Jin Sakai, his uncle, the leader of the Mongols, and there's a nice cast of supporting characters who kind of aid you in your adventure. Not really an adventure. It's not like a fun, happy time adventure. It's more of a very somber and sad experience overall. I think my favorite of the side characters is probably the one you meet at the beginning of the game. Probably the one the game tries to make you most sort of sympathetic to and interested in. And that would be Yuna. She is like a thief and kind of compels Jin to sort of not really abandon his samurai ways, but realize that he's kind of stuck. If he sticks to being a samurai, there's no way for him to win. He's going to have to learn from others around him and realize that he's going to have to do this kind of guerrilla style if he's going to get rid of the Mongols from Tsushima. And there's also a really stunning open world. And I think what I loved about this open world is that it was not so huge that it became so daunting and unmanageable. There's plenty of distractions to be found in the world, little side missions to do, There are also side quests with like random NPC characters. Not the game's strongest suit. A lot of times you would run into these people and it would be like, hey, my wife or my dog or my husband or my child or my neighbor, I haven't seen them in a few days. They were over at that farm over there. Can you see what happened? And like 9 out of 10 times it was an unhappy ending. Usually that other person is dead. And I don't know, they were just kind of time fillers. Not, again, if there's a sequel coming out, Ghost of Yote, later this year, I would suggest that Sucker Punch. I'm sure they probably got the feedback years ago when this game first came out, but like try to make those side quests a little more compelling outside of the ones featuring those support characters, because the support character side quests I absolutely loved. They really got you to get to know those characters. Those were excellent. The combat itself is also really, really good. I kind of was worried for a minute when I started the game. I thought I was pretty bad at it, but it did start to click. There's a lot of parrying and dodging, and you have these 4 main stances that you switch from on the fly while you're in the fight, depending on like the enemy you're kind of having a one-on-one with. A lot of times you'll encounter a group of 4, 5, 6 enemies, and it gets a little bit challenging when you're first, like, so one of them will be carrying like a 2-handed sword, another one will have like this boomstick like thing, and then another one will have dual wield 2 small swords, then another one will have a pole arm. I really struggled with the pole arm characters for like the longest time. They were like my number one enemy to take me down, or always end up hurting me somehow. You do eventually, you sort of level up your character, and you can invest in these different like talents, and it does sort of increase your capabilities, although the game does then start to throw harder enemies, or enemies that can counter more of what you're doing to them. So there is a nice balance, I would say, overall through the course of the game. The DLC island, Iki Island, that has an additional kind of level of challenging enemies to face, harder than anything found in the main game, I thought, at least. And those were some of the roughest parts. Like, I thought I had mastered the game, when I beat it, and then I go to Iki Island to do the DLC there, and it's a whole nother level of challenge, and sort of like I got humbled real quickly there. But as for the main game, the final 30 minutes are just absolutely incredible. The ending itself, the final moments of the game is just, whoa, absolute perfection. Chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. What an ending to a game. It made me emotional. Like, it was like such an impactful scene. You're kind of given this choice at the very end of the game, and I don't know, to me the choice is very obvious, but maybe there's other people who would go with the other route. But I can't imagine the emotional payoff is nearly as good if you go with one choice over the other. And I don't want to do spoilers because, maybe someone's looking forward to playing this game, and I don't want to ruin that for them because it took me by surprise. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Great game. Looking forward to Ghost of Yote. Probably won't play on day one just because I rarely play anything on day one anymore. I'd rather wait a few months for all the patches and bugs and expansions and DLC to drop, so that way, I can get that full experience. But yeah, highly recommend Ghost of Tsushima. I played on PS5, the director's cut version, so check it out if you haven't. Such a great game. I actually played another game already after I beat Ghost of Tsushima. I jumped into Life is Strange Double Exposure. So this is, I think, the 4th or 5th game in the Life is Strange series. Each prior Life is Strange series has been sort of its own standalone game, but these are kind of a choose-your-own adventure, but sort of on a linear-ish path, but there's little minor divergences, and think Butterfly Effect, the game, effectively, or a minor choice you might make or a response you give to one person might set off sort of a chain reaction of different events over the course of your playthrough. And these games are done in sort of a 5 episode segment, or they're segmented into 5 episodes, I should say. And so yeah, it took me about a dozen hours to play through Double Exposure. Double Exposure was the first time they chose to bring back a protagonist from a prior game and make them playable again. So with Double Exposure, you reassume the role of Max Caulfield, who was the protagonist of the first game. It's set about 10 years later. She's no longer a high school student. Now she's an artist in residence at some university in, not Virginia, Vermont. And she's got a new group of friends, and stuff starts to go a little haywire. Life is Strange has like kind of a minor, I'd say a major sci-fi bent, not like space and aliens and stuff, but sort of like X-Men mutant kind of powers, but in like a subtle way. So in this game, in the first game, Max can rewind time. So whenever you were to like make a certain decision, you could sort of hold the L trigger, I think it was, and then it would rewind and you can make another choice. In this game, Max now has the ability no longer to rewind time, because Max didn't use her ability for many, many years for fear of screwing things up like she did in the first game. So now when she tried to use her power, all of a sudden, she found that what it would do is sort of pop her into an alternate reality version of where she was prior. And so at the beginning of the game, one of her friends is murdered, and she tries to use her powers, and instead it pops her over into another timeline where her friend is still alive. But in this timeline, there are kind of other things going wrong. And so over the course of the game, you're hopping back and forth between each of these two timelines to try to fix things or investigate, honestly, more than anything. Not so much fixing, more like just trying to piece together what happened, who killed my friend, how is it related to this other timeline, and what can I do to fix everything going completely wrong on both of these angles. And so the game kind of ends with sort of righting some wrongs, and I won't spoil it, but it was fun to revisit Max as a character. I enjoyed Max in the first game probably more than any of the other Life is Strange games that have come out since. There's actually one Life is Strange game I haven't played yet. That's True Colors. So I guess I haven't played them all. Maybe I would really like True Colors. But it was good. I liked it. I thought it was a noble effort. Maybe a little. Here's the thing. The original developers of Life is Strange made Life is Strange 1 and Life is Strange 2. Square Enix was the publisher of those games, and even though the original developer created Life is Strange, Square Enix owned Life is Strange. So the original developer no longer liked the arrangement that they had for making these games and left. So Square Enix hired another company, Deck 9 Games, to start making Life is Strange games. Now, Deck 9, has kind of been a mixed bag so far, I think a lot of fans would say. It almost feels like Double Exposure is a really well done fan fiction because the original creators weren't involved. It's sort of, I don't know, like it feels a little off. There's like just something that's not right. It feels like they're trying to pretend to be those other developers. Like they're thinking like, well, how would they write this or how would they do this? And unfortunately, sometimes it comes off just not perfectly maxy, I would say. But I still do think it's good. They seem to be hinting at that they want Max to be like a permanent protagonist of the Life is Strange games going forward, based on sort of a very Marvel-esque after credits thing where it says Max Caulfield will return, just like Iron Man will return. It was a little silly, I thought. Like, it just kind of seemed like, what do you... This isn't the Marvel Cinematic Universe, guys. I mean, nobody even cares about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's kind of sad. But, yeah, it's like, I don't know why you're trying to emulate them. It's a little ridiculous. But, anyways, it was a good 12 hours. I got all the trophies except for one. The reason being is you have to replay the game entirely from scratch and make one different decision at the very beginning of the game based on the events of the original Life is Strange game. And I just didn't have it in me to sit through the same dialogue or similar dialogue all over again for another 8 to 12 hours. I could probably get through the game faster, but I still think I'm looking at least 7 to 8 hours, and that just doesn't seem worth it for a platinum trophy. Maybe a couple years from now when I've kind of forgotten more about the game, I want to revisit it, I can check it out then. But yeah, I'm not going to sit there and play the game again. Like, my lifetime is more valuable at this point than just sitting there holding the X button waiting for the dialogue to go by. Like, just ridiculous. So stupid. Don't make games like that, or don't make trophies like that, developers. Please, don't do it. You're just arbitrarily inflating the playtime of your game with a trophy. Like, that just makes players do something they really, really don't want to do. It's bad design. And now for the news segment of our broadcast. Sticking to the script here, so that way we get you out of here in a decent amount of time. Apologies if I'm running long today. So Meta, the artist formerly known as Facebook, has gone all in on virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and everything else in between, including tech wearables like Meta Ray-Bans. All of these initiatives are housed under a division known as Reality Labs, and it's no secret that Reality Labs spends lots of money. They spend and subsidize so much that they constantly operate at a loss. I came across a great statistics report from the website Statista that illustrates the division's yearly operating losses. In 2019, there was a loss of $4.5 billion. In 2020, $6.6 billion. 2021, $10.2 billion. 2022, $13.7 billion. 2023, $16.1 billion. And in 2024, a staggering loss of $17.7 billion United States dollar bills. So I guess the bright side is that maybe the bleed slowed a bit from 2023 to 2024. It was only $1.6 billion increase as opposed to the nearly $3 billion increase from 2022 to 2023. But yikes, it's not a good look. Some of this money is spent to subsidize hardware purchases of VR headsets. That's right, they sell all those headsets at a loss just to get more people to buy into their ecosystem. It's no secret that Mark Zuckerberg is a big believer in the metaverse, and Reality Labs are a big part of that, so he has been willing to allow the division to spend, and spend. But signs are pointing that maybe his patience is growing thin, and Reality Labs needs to shape up or pack it up. In a recently leaked November memo from Meta Chief's technology officer Andrew Bosworth, he lays down the reality of the situation. Here's an excerpt of his memo titled 2025, The Year of Greatness. Next year is going to be the most critical year in my 8 years at Reality Labs. We have the best portfolio of products we've ever had in market and are pushing our advantage by launching half a dozen more AI-powered wearables. We need to drive sales, retention, and engagement across the board, but especially in mixed reality. If you don't feel the weight of history on you, then you aren't paying attention. This year likely determines whether this entire effort will go down as the work of visionaries or a legendary misadventure. On paper, 2024 was our most successful year to date, but we aren't sitting around celebrating because we know it isn't enough. We haven't actually made a dent in the world yet. The prize for good work is the opportunity to do great work. Greatness is our opportunity. We live in an incredible time of technological achievement and have placed ourselves at the center of it with our investments. There is a very good chance most of us will never get a chance like this again. Greatness is a choice. Many people have been at the precipice of great opportunity and failed to achieve. For the most part, they fail to even challenge themselves. You should be doing the best work of your career right now. You should be pushing yourself to grow where needed and doubling down on your strengths. When you look back on this time, I want you to feel like you did everything in your power to make the most of it for the shareholders. The path is clear. You don't need to come up with a bunch of new ideas to do this great work. Most people in the organization just need to execute on the work laid out before them to succeed. It is about operational excellence. It is about master craftsmanship. It is about filling our products with give a damn. This is about having pride in our work. Andrew clearly has someone breathing down his neck at work, and now he's spreading that pressure around to his division. This reads like a do or die, if you ask me. My guess is that if they don't see the kind of results they are looking for this year, Andrew and a good chunk of the department will have their heads on the chopping block. I don't even think it's about revenue or profits, at least right now. It's about converting non-believers into users and convincing everyone that the future is meta. Electronics Arts CEO Andrew Wilson was speaking to investors and shareholders this past week at a quarterly financial call and made a statement about the failure of the new Dragon Age game, The Veilguard. He said, "Our blockbuster storytelling strategy is built on 3 strategic objectives. First, create an authentic story experience for the core audience. Second, build innovative, groundbreaking features. And third, emphasize high-quality launches across both PC and console. In order to break out beyond the core audience, games need to directly connect to the evolving demand of players who increasingly seek shared world features and deeper engagement alongside high-quality narratives in this beloved category." Dragon Age had a high-quality launch, and was well reviewed by critics and those who played. However, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in this highly competitive market. So Andrew Wilson, with all due respect, what the heck are you talking about? Dragon Age The Veilguard originally started its life in development as a games as a service title, back when it was known as Dragon Age The Dreadbook. This was a horrible idea. Why would you take a beloved, single-player, dark fantasy tactical RPG with narrative and decision-making at its core and attempt to make it into a live service action game? It was only thanks to the epic failure of your other live service game, Anthem, that BioWare was allowed to scrap the live service elements and make the Veilguard into a single-player game. But here's the problem. Development on this live service action game was already so far along that they had to use all the work they had done on this live service game and make it work for a single-player game. That meant carrying over some of the warts of a live service game, a lack of meaningful choices, watered-down writing, and a combat system so different from what Dragon Age is known for. If the game had just been allowed to be what it should have been from day one, the game would have been out years ago, closer to the previous Dragon Age's game release, and not 10 years later like we got, and probably exceeded everyone's expectations. This is why Dragon Age The Veilguard failed, not because your game should have been a live service game all along, you nincompoop. So now BioWare has effectively been halved, with less than 100 employees working on the next Mass Effect game. The other half of the employees are either laid off or reassigned to other studios within Electronic Arts. For all intents and purposes, it seems likely that Dragon Age is gone and dead for good this time. It's truly tragic, and it upsets me to no end. So much wasted potential chasing the whims of C-suite executives. Shame on you. And them. For our final story, we're going to be talking about the Entertainment Software Association. So they're known as the ESA, and they're responsible for things like the video game rating system, seen in the Americas like E for Everyone, and they're also responsible for the now defunct Video Game Expo, known as E3. They have decided to get back into video game events. Last week they announced iicon, and that's with 2 I's and both of them lowercase. Very, very designy of them. iicon is the Interactive Innovation Conference, and what the ESA calls a first-of-its-kind event designed to connect visionaries, thought leaders, and innovators from across industries to harness the power of interactive entertainment. Taking place April 27th through 30th, 2026. Yes, 2026. Not this year, next year. They are announcing this event more than a year in advance. The event will take place at the Fontainebleau Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. The event will be invite only and promises that attendees will gain exclusive access to visionary keynotes, engaging discussions and workshops, and elite networking opportunities with executives shaping the future of entertainment, business, and technology. So I guess if you're not a visionary, you won't be getting into the conference. That being said, the website does have a form for those interested to submit their information at. Big name companies are already backing the event. including Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, Square Enix, Take-Two, and many more. President and CEO of the ESA, Stanley Pierre-Louis, says this about the event. For decades, video games have been at the forefront of technological and cultural innovation. With iicon, we are creating a space for visionaries across industries to come together, connect, and reimagine what's possible through interactive entertainment. The more I think about this event, the more it becomes obvious that this is some kind of an attempt to get outsiders to the industry to try and get them to buy in and invest, referring to them as visionaries and blah blah blah. Stroke those egos, guys. Stroke those egos, Stanley Pierre-Louis. So this is pretty disappointing to me. It would have been nice to see them try to bring back E3 in a different format, build it up over the years, but whatever this ends up being, it is surely not going to be the Electronic Entertainment Expo. End transmission.